Thank you so much, Ron Phil, for that great introduction, and thank you, Ron, for inviting us to participate in this webinar. The Greening of Detroit is extremely excited to share with everyone today about the productive reuse of vacant land, dendro remediation in Detroit. So you can see right here, Phil had already did the introduction, but I'd also like to share that I was a small business advisor with the Peace Corps in the Republics of Guinea and Mali, as well as the first technician for this project. Here we go. Okay, so the Greening of Detroit is an environmental nonprofit based in the city of Detroit, once known as the Paris of the Midwest for our luxurious tree-lined streets. We were founded in 1989 as a volunteer-led tree planting organization in response to Dutch elm disease and later emerald ash borer, and the lack of funds for city maintenance around trees. Today, our core mission focuses on increasing Detroit's urban forests and improving the quality of life for Detroit residents through adult and youth workforce development. Let me go back real quick. So the pictures that you see here were actually taken in Detroit by Jack Barger with the U.S. Forest Service. On the top is taken in 1971 of a Detroit street when we still had these trees, and then in 1984. So we know that trees are not only a benefit for the environment, but it can also affect social and mental well-being. Okay. And we're really excited about this partnership with the Forest Service. The goals of this partnership, one is to further the body of knowledge around dendro remediation to address soil contamination, particularly around vacant land in Detroit. Two, seek funding opportunities to collect and analyze soil, tissue, and leaf samples from these established sites, which were planted as early as 2011. Goal 3 is to seek additional funding for ongoing maintenance of these sites, which for anyone who is interested in doing this type of work in an urban area is extremely important. And 4, where applicable, leverage city planning and private development initiatives towards redevelopment of these sites into public green space for the community benefit. Okay, and just to drive home the key benefits for Detroit, one is to manage Detroit's vacant land challenges using strategic reforestation as one of the potentials. In Detroit, we have over 139 square miles of vacant land. 2, we want to create potential for new community benefits and tackle the risk of contamination for future development. For those who are unfamiliar with brownfield redevelopment, the perception of contamination is enough to put future development at risk. And 3, to improve public health by reducing soil and air contaminants in a cost-effective, replicable manner. If we can improve this and install more of these strategies throughout Detroit, we can increase the public health impact for Detroit residents. So today, the Greening of Detroit has 4 dendro remediation sites ready to be sampled. Nearly a decade old, these sites are primed for research. Now, I'm going to talk about the specific work that we've done here in Detroit. In 2010, we received a GLRI grant to remediate soil contaminants on previous industrial lands throughout the city. The contaminants in question were Michigan 10 heavy metals and PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And we use specific poplar and willow species based on the existing research for their soil remediation characteristics. So the goals we established at that time, one was to determine whether these species could remove contaminants from soil in Detroit. 2, monitor how well species survive in these contaminated soils. And 3, prove this to be a cost-effective method of rehabilitating these sites. Okay, so these goals were translated into the following project questions. Question 1 is, which of these treatments, poplar, willow, or a control, have the greatest impact on contaminants at years 2, 5, and 10? Question 2 is, what is the survivability of each genotype on brownfield properties? And then question 3 is how effective, right? This is for the city of Detroit. And while we haven't answered question 3, you can see that questions 1 and 2 are illustrated in the diagrams that you see on your screen right now. I wanted to mention, so we have the poplar plots and the willow plots. Sam will go into more detail about these, but the control plots were simply vegetation that were already growing, so typically that was whatever grass was there. And this slide is going, I won't read this whole slide, but suffice to say our site selection requirements were that the parcel that we were working with had to be over 1 acre. There had to be documentation on previous land use, and there also had to be the presence of soil contaminants there. So the diagram that you see in front of us is the Rouge River watershed, which takes up about 50% of the city of Detroit. And essentially through this process we did a phase 1, if you're familiar with brownfield work. Next one. And then here are the tree species that we planted. We planted these at 10-inch stakes and 4-foot stakes. As the first technician, we tried out the 10-inch and they had very high mortality. So for the remainder of the project, we stuck to planting the 4-foot stakes. And these photos were taken after the first growing season. Right? And so now I will pass the presentation over to Sam to describe the installations and the steps for and the sites themselves.